This has been another very popular topic that you guys have wanted us to discuss. In the poll that I did a couple weeks ago, this was like the second most popular thing that you guys voted on. So today we're going to talk about veganism and homesteading and just our thoughts about food in general. A little background: we have been vegan, or mostly vegan, for about 8 years. We'll touch on the mostly part here in a little bit, but we have a lot to say about this topic, so there might even be a follow-up video if we can't get to it all today. So you guys can ask any questions or provide feedback, and maybe we'll get to those in a follow-up video if we end up doing that. So I guess first let's kind of talk about why we went vegan in the first place. And there's really like two main factors, and that was just the ethics and also health. So ethically, I think that everybody can agree that our current factory farming agricultural system, the way that we raise and slaughter animals, is not very ethical. For me, it kind of started out watching some documentaries, which, you know, if you are vegan, I'm sure that you have watched those documentaries. And then also Asher grew up in an environment where he worked in a slaughterhouse when he was 16. And do you want to share your personal experience?
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. About 30 minutes before I became vegan, I said that I was absolutely not going to be vegan. I grew up in a family in the country that hunted and fished, and basically my entire family works at a slaughterhouse. And I grew up working at a slaughterhouse, so I didn't really know any different. And it's really sad. Slaughterhouses are really sad, and it was specifically a pig slaughterhouse. And there is a lot of really bad things that happen. Now, there is the USDA there, which they control a lot of, like, you obviously can't, like, beat the animals, right? But the overall sadness of the life before those animals get there is just really bad. When they're shipped on large trucks for like 3 or 4 days before they get there, and they do not give them food or water or anything. It doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees. They get nothing. And then all the pigs are actually female. So oftentimes they would come in and they would either have babies on the truck, or they would wind up, whenever they would cut them open, they would be like little baby piglets, like sliding across the floor. Now, the way that they kill these animals now is generally with electrocution, so the piglets are also dead, but there was a time when they used to shoot them in the head, and the little baby pigs would still be alive. And I actually took one home and tried to save it one time. It's really hard. It's honestly really hard to save them because they don't get like colostrum, which is, what mom produces at first. So at that point, it's really hard to save them. But even the overall, if you get even the outside of the ethical part of it, like, it was really nasty. Watching them drop meat all over the floor and then just throw it in tubs. I watched meat go into grinders, like covered in skin and hair from the pigs. And it really doesn't matter which company that you pick. They're all the same. And honestly, the company that I worked for would change labels throughout the day. Like, they changed the seasoning in the meat, and then they put a different label on it. So all of the meat came from the same place, like all of your sausage and bacon, it all came from the same place.
This is a well-known, very popular slaughterhouse, like a popular brand that everybody knows. And then there's also like the ethics of like the people who work in the facilities. A lot of them are undocumented, and poor, lower income people. And so the company is able to take advantage of these people quite a bit more than the general population.
They are illegal. Like, there's a lot of illegal immigrants that work in the slaughterhouse. And then the other people are really poor. And the rates of cancer in this place is insane. Because I grew up around all of these people. When I was a little bitty kid, my grandmother used to take me to go sit on the fake pigs that were out front of the building. Out in front of the building, they had like all these little different colored pigs, and I like the little spotted one. And she would take pictures of us like playing on the little pigs and stuff. And so I grew up around there. Like I knew all of them. And it is shocking to me how many of them today have cancer. And it is due to, I'm telling you, it's related to like the chemicals and stuff that they use in that facility. Then you got to think like even at night, like whenever all the meat packing and stuff is done, they come in and spray down all of that machinery and stuff with bleach. And then, you know, the next day, because there's a night crew that comes in and does all this, the next day, all of those belts are still covered in stuff. That whole place smells like chemicals, and then all of your food just goes down that same
chemical trail.
It's insane to me. Like my not wanting to be vegan though was, I love animals. I'm obsessed with animals. That's like literally been my entire life. But it's also been my entire life to eat meat. And I grew up in a world where you choose your meat and then you put sides around it. There was never a time that there was not
like
meat.
It was, you were completely unaware that meat wasn't necessary.
Yeah, like that's not a thing in the country. Like there's meat and then there's potatoes.
Yeah, see, I grew up in, like, a lot of my family is vegetarian. And even when I was growing up, we didn't eat a lot of meat. I didn't like meat when I was a kid. Like, I couldn't chew up meat. I didn't like, also, like, my family couldn't cook meat very well. They overcooked it, so it just wasn't good. So meat is not something that I ever saw as a necessity.
My family still overcooks meat. Like, I mean, even though, I mean, maybe they're really scared of, like, I don't know,
bacteria, whatever. Like,
yeah,
E.
even
coli,
like steak.
salmonella.
Steak is well done. And I worked in a restaurant, and I hated steak until I worked in a restaurant. And it was like a 5-star restaurant. And then, listen, I like free food, and people would send their steak back all the time because it wasn't cooked the correct way. And when I was like 18 and I was struggling, I ate everything that came back. It did not matter. It didn't matter if it was on the grill for 2 minutes or if it was on the grill for 10 minutes. I was eating it. That was like the biggest money saving thing when I was like 18, all that free food.
So in a second, we're going to address a little bit more of the ethics as far as if our opinions have changed at all since we've started homesteading. But first, we're going to talk about the other reason why we went vegan, which was for the health. So obviously we have a huge issue with our diet just in general being unhealthy and us being exposed to a lot of unhealthy foods, mainly processed foods. So when you go vegan and you eat a lot of whole foods, plant-based foods, that is going to be a healthier diet for most people than what like most people eat.
When we went vegan, there wasn't really an option to be healthy vegan, like
other than to be healthy vegan.
Yeah, like I remember we bought a bunch of cookbooks and we made everything from scratch. And I remember learning how to make like vegan mayonnaise at home.
Yeah, because
like,
there wasn't even vegan mayonnaise
in
the store. There wasn't like Beyond Meat, like fake meats. There were like
we
maybe
made
some little chicken
walnut
nuggets.
meat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like there was not all of these crappy options at this.
You couldn't go to fast food and get like Burger King has vegan
Impossible
food now.
Burgers, which
Yeah.
most restaurants now have some sort of vegan option. And that was not the case. Like part of what helped us be so healthy when we became vegan was there wasn't any options. So we had to make all of our food and basically from scratch at that point.
Yeah.
And now then there is a million options of this
A million expensive processed
expensive,
options.
unhealthy, processed food that is just, it's honestly worse for you than eating just regular meat.
Yeah, I do think so. Like ethically, if you're vegan for ethics, that would be a better choice. But if you're worried about your health, and health is one of the main things, like eating processed vegan food is not really super healthy.
I mean, come on, guys. Like, a lot of times French fries are vegan, and we all know that eating French fries is probably not the healthiest option. There's a lot of people, I think we have an issue in our society right now with chronic health issues, and I personally have chronic issues. My whole family has chronic issues, like with joint pain. Basically, everyone in my family has been diagnosed with some sort of like
Autoimmune
fibromyalgia
issue. Yeah.
and stuff like that. And that was another thing that pushed me to go with the vegan thing, is because the processed food and stuff was absolutely killing me.
Yeah, I mean, your blood work came back not great before you went vegan, and then after you were vegan, it came back a lot better.
Yeah, being vegan did improve my health significantly.
But I think the point is that you can be healthy whether you are eating meat or not. It's really more about the processed foods and whether you're eating whole foods. Like, my opinion is the most healthy way to eat is to eat a mostly plant-based whole food diet. I don't think that like eating a little bit of meat is unhealthy.
Like, scientifically, beef, like in general, is one of the most nutritionally dense food that you could ever eat. Eggs are extremely nutritionally dense. It is science. There's not really an argument for it. But everything in moderation, and also getting beef, for example, that is full of hormones made in with some factory cow or some dairy cow that's struggled all of her life and had lots of babies and then was sent to slaughter. Obviously, that meat is not as nutritionally valuable for you as eating a grass-fed, farm-raised cow. Like, those are not the same thing. And truth be told, I think that we have a lot of diets and a lot of different ways that people are trying to fix the issues that have actually came from the amount of processed food we have. Like, we have veganism, we have vegetarian, we have pescatarian, we have carnivore, we have keto, we have Mediterranean. Here's the thing, is all of these diets, one of the benefits to all of these diets is that it makes it hard for you to eat garbage. It restricts your food, so you're less likely to eat processed food. If you go and you look at the benefits of all of these foods, most of the benefits actually come from the fact that you're forced to eat whole foods.
You're cutting out cakes and cookies and ice cream and all those things that
and processed carbs.
Potato chips.
Yeah. Bread, like crappy bread.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are, actually the issue to begin with.
Okay, so let's go on to, like, has our opinion changed since we started homesteading? Obviously, we have gotten chickens and we have added eggs into our diet from our chickens, if you guys have been watching our food videos. So I guess we're not vegan anymore, but we do still eat mostly plant-based. So I don't know. Has our opinion changed?
I don't feel like my opinion changed because, like, when I was growing up, like, I still don't think my family was wrong for raising chickens and eating the eggs, or, for any animals they raised and ate. Everything in our society, there's a circle of life, okay? And I think making good ethical choices and being a good person is choosing to do as little harm to our environment and to other things as we possibly can. And if you really look at it with an open mind, because it's really not black and white, and you look at, for example, if you raise a chicken, you eat its eggs, it lives a happy life on a free-range farm, and then it gets older and you eat said chicken, okay? That is not in any way worse than eating, for example, wheat. When a big machine comes through to cut down your wheat, how many animals do you think are killed in that process? How many little moles and rats and snakes and other organisms are murdered when these big plows come through to plow up for all the crops to be planted? So in my head, one animal right there lived a happy life and was then killed. You killed one animal. But you also, when you planted all those crops or cut down all of your wheat with like a big machine, you killed an unlimited number of animals. Like, who knows? Rabbits, baby deer, moles, rats, birds. A lot of animals actually get killed in the process of harvesting our crops.
I think when it comes to like a sustainability aspect, if you are looking at a homesteader, somebody who is growing most of their own food, whether that is plants or animals, they are having less of an environmental impact, less of an ethically negative impact just overall in their effect of the world than even a vegan. And so while it's sad to eat animals, like in general, like I really get that. I am not at a point where I could raise an animal and then kill it and eat it. I'm not at that point, and I don't know if I ever will be at that point. But I do totally think that a homesteader who raises a cow, a pig, some chickens, and kills that animal and eats it to sustain themselves is having less of an environmental impact than a vegan who is getting their produce from all over the world and is not, like harvesting their own food and all that stuff. And it's not a black and white issue because not everybody can be a homesteader. So I think that there's a lot of judgment a lot of times between like the vegan community, the homesteading community, like even if you're not homesteading, even if you're hunting, even if you're ethically sourcing your meat that you're eating, there doesn't need to be so much controversy there because really a lot of the times I think that everybody's on the same page because both groups of those people are not wanting to support factory farming in our current agricultural system.
Yeah, our whole issue is like the large agricultural system that is demolishing our ecosystem, that is raising animals in small cages and treating them terribly, not the homesteader who, is raising their pigs and cows and chickens and then getting the eggs and eating them. If the animal is happy, then that's a lot better situation than like large scale agriculture. And it is impossible to not have a negative impact in some way on something in our environment, regardless of what you're eating. That is life. And that is every animal, and I just think that we should try and do as best we can in order to do as little harm as possible. I mean, even like Buddhist and Native Americans, like all of these people, they still eat meat.
And I think that we kind of look when we're like trying to decide like what is the best way for us to eat. I think we always kind of come back to like indigenous cultures and how humans ate and lived like before our current industrial revolution, like the way that we're currently living. How did humans actually eat? And when you look back at indigenous tribes and stuff, they did a lot of they were hunter-gatherers in general, and they did go out and they did hunt and they did eat meat, but they also ate a lot of foraged food, plants, crops that they were able to grow. It was like a huge variety of food, and they did so ethically. Humans are animals, we are part of this world, and other animals hunt and kill, and in order to have life, you do have to take life, be that from an animal or from a plant. Your plants are living also, there's that not black and white issue of like, are plants alive?
You
also.
guys should watch The Secret Life of Trees. or read the book. But there's a documentary.
Is there a documentary?
There's a documentary about The Secret Life of Trees too, about how they like communicate and they'll keep each other alive and stuff like that.
Like animals and plants communicate differently than we do. So unless you are like actively trying to understand another species and in the way that they communicate and are actually living and understand their world, then like it's really easy to like distance yourself from that.
I mean, we value everything. We're not like hierarchy people. Like if I have to kill a plant, I still feel bad about it because I think they're really pretty. Like,
I have a really hard time like when I was planting my garden and you're supposed to plant like 3 seeds and then you have to pull up the ones. What is it called when they grow, when they germinate? You have to like only let one plant live, and I would pull up the little plants and go and try and plant them somewhere else because I feel so bad about killing the little seedling. You know, like I don't know.
Everything's just trying to survive here,
yeah.
You know, and I don't know where I was going. I got lost.
That's okay. I'm having an emotional response to thinking about my little baby plants. There also is a privilege to being vegan, being able to choose what you eat, even if it's not a financial privilege, because you can eat vegan very affordably if you have access to that information. But if you are, like, for example, like Asher grew up in an environment where if they were going to eat, they grew it and raised it. And so you can't really tell somebody that their culture, that their way of life is wrong if that's the way that they survive. And other cultures around the world, you can't disrespect other cultures. And that is one reason, even when we were vegan, like, and I considered us vegan, if we were to go to like friends, family, if we were ever offered food that wasn't vegan, it was very disrespectful for us to reject that food. So we never did reject food that was offered to us.
I mean, yeah, if people knew that we were vegan, a lot of times they would ask, and you know, whatever they made, they would attempt to make it vegan. Did they always succeed? No. But my family in particular would try and make a dish vegan and be like, oh, well, I added butter. I'm like, that's not vegan, but that's okay, whatever. Thanks for trying. But for the most part, I mean, if it is in my family, I mean, people give food. I don't know what it is. You can go to my family's house and you will leave with bags of food. Like I don't understand, like, especially my grandmother.
That's their love language.
Leave. She has a junk room. It's called a junk room with like literally stacks and stacks and stacks of canned food. And you will leave with entire bags of food because my grandmother wants to make sure that you are not going to do without. And it does not matter how many groceries you currently have in your house.
Remember every time when we first started dating, I would go over and she would hand me these cinnamon mints because I said I liked them one time. And so every single time I went over there, she had a pocket full of cinnamon mints for me.
Yes, you don't even like them.
I didn't like them, but I couldn't tell her I didn't like them.
We still have cinnamon mints in the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the way that they are.
It made her happy to give me cinnamon mints.
It did. It makes them happy to give people stuff in general. I mean, that's their love language. I guess what people are, like, my family's not really wealthy, so their love language is to, like, give you food. Like, they grow food.
Food's really important.
Food is important. And so that's just the way that they show love, I guess. I would like my grandmother sometimes to stop giving me so much food, though. Like, I actually think eating anything is a privilege. Like, I think the ability to choose what you put on your plate is absolutely a privilege. It doesn't matter if it's meat or it's vegetables. There's places where there's not a lot of vegetables, and
like even in America, there's like food deserts where people are having to shop at the dollar store or a convenience store to get all of their food. And in order to eat a healthy diet, like, they really can't be vegan.
We experienced this while he was traveling across the United States, if you guys didn't catch that. Where there's like a gas station with like, I don't know, 2 aisles of just nothing for like 100 miles. It was not even reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, and we were able to plan that a little bit, but like, and we could also eat trash for a little bit, like processed unhealthy trash for a little bit. But yeah, there are definitely places where people don't have access, even in America, to fresh produce, affordable, healthy foods. And so like, I don't know. I don't have any judgment on what anybody eats. And also, like, if you are really struggling financially and you are having to go to like a food bank or something like that, then like, you take what you can get, and that might not be vegan food, even if ethically you want to eat vegan. Like, you just can't. Or you're working all the time and you do not have time to figure out how to eat a different way than you're used to. So, and some people don't have access to resources to like learn information. So there's just so many factors in it. And that's one reason why I would never be like I show how we eat, and I share our mostly vegan meals now that we eat our eggs. But I would never tell people that like they have to be vegan or they have to eat this way. Totally respect everybody's choices.
Yeah, I do think that was like the biggest thing that was an issue as far as like the vegan culture situation is vegans in general, the way that they approach other people about being vegan is sometimes not the best way, you know?
And I get that they love animals and they're very passionate about animals, because we are too. We love animals, and like, yeah, I totally get that. But it's just not such a black and white issue at all.
I mean, everybody has their reasonings. If you go to my family's house and you're like, you guys need to be vegan, my family, one, doesn't even know what vegan is, clearly. And even including that, like out there, like produce is actually pretty expensive. Shooting a deer is pretty cheap. So they're probably going to choose to shoot the deer. And that's just, it just is what it is. I mean, they're going to.
And the reality is the deer has had a free life up until that point. It is better to shoot the deer than it is to go and buy that was something else. Like, when we were driving out west, I had never really seen what do you call it? Like where they raise cattle, like a cattle farm, but like a factory farmed cattle farm. What would you call that? I don't know.
I think it was a dairy farm.
Was it a dairy farm? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, that was my first experience actually seeing one. But then when we moved to Virginia, and, you know, we're from East Tennessee, we're from a more rural area where a lot of the cattle that are raised, they're grass-fed cattle. So, and we have cattle all around our property that are being raised for beef. And those cows are 100% happy cows until the day that they're taken to slaughter, which I don't know.
I mean, it's sad. I cannot. There are some animals that growing up, I'm used to slaughtering animals. I'm used to hunting. I can hunt. I honestly think it's just, I can fish, I can hunt. I think it's just good. I can clean a deer. I can clean just about any animal. I think that that's a skill that everybody should have.
We also run into the issue where we have animals that need to eat meat. Cats, dogs need to eat meat. And is it more ethical to go and hunt fish for their food than it is to go and buy commercial dog food? You know?
Yeah, also when you have a homestead situation and you have animals like that, all of those animals have to be fed. And your dog is not a vegan, okay? Your cat, not a vegan. Those are carnivorous animals. They require meat, especially cats. Cats actually require 90%.
Yeah, a dog can live fine without meat, but
they should questionable. Still have meat. It's questionable. Yeah. Cats definitely not. all of that meat is used. Like, so in the situation of where you work in a slaughterhouse, like some of that meat's thrown away, and there's a lot of waste. Whereas if you are farming and you kill an animal on your homestead, there is a line of animals that will eat every bit of that. And I'm going to tell you, chickens will eat just about anything. So will pigs. So, but even growing up on a farm and having farm animals, I really love animals, and I am very reluctant to kill an animal unless I have to. And now, if somebody hits a deer driving down the road and I'm there, I'm not going to leave that deer. I will be loading that up in the back of the truck. That is my food and dog food. Like, that's just where I grew up. We don't hit deer and leave them in the road. You can tell that you're not country enough until you see somebody. If somebody hits a deer, I guarantee you out there, there'll be a truck rolling up right then to be like, "Hey, officer, can I have that?" And they'll usually give it to you.
That was not the world I grew up in. But I fully support that, and I don't know. Asher has not brought a deer home yet for us.
I usually haven't even seen, surprisingly, listen, there's deer that run through the neighborhoods and stuff up here, and they even extended hunting season, didn't they? Because there's so many of them, and it's pretty shocking. You can't just go and get a deer off the side of the road. You have to like be there when the deer is hit. That's gross. Don't do that. I mean, it's pretty cold right now, so it's probably, as long as it's pretty close to when it happens, it's fine. But like in the summer, definite no. And in the winter, you need to know when that deer was hit. Don't.
I prefer to just eat my beans and rice, Asher.
Listen, the dogs say that they'll eat it.
Yeah, okay.
So will the chickens. Free food. It's also a respect thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the turkey vultures will probably eat it, though. It will get eaten. It is just the circle of life.
We want to live our life in a similar way to, indigenous people.
And other animals. Like
we want to coexist. And I think that's part of the problem with humans and the earth, is humans and the earth do not coexist. Actually, the only other organism on the earth that moves to an area and uses up all its resources and kills everything and then moves to a new area, the only other organism that does that is a virus. Humans, actually, are the only organism on our earth that if we all died, the earth improves.
I want to throw out a book recommendation. Braiding Sweetgrass. If you haven't read that book, it talks a lot about indigenous culture in the United States and how they were part of the ecosystem and how they are no longer part of that ecosystem, and how humans have been taken out of the natural ecosystem of our environment and are living separately. Anyway, really
humans are damaging everything, and we really are not required for our planet as much as other animals are. And
anymore, we used
to be a part of the natural circle of life. But when it comes to like hunting, our populations grew, and we got to the point where basically humans just hunted entire species to death without any thought about what was going to happen if that species died off.
Or need to hunt that to death, because we were hunting to like sell furs and just for unnecessary purposes.
Yeah, I don't ever believe in killing anything other than for your survival. And I mean, even then, even if you think about Native American cultures and back to hunters and gatherers, regardless of what a lot of men would like you to believe, we were mostly gatherers. And shocking enough, guys, guess who did most of the gathering? Women. Okay. And so I know there's this whole masculine man thing about how we were savage hunters, but we were not. We were not. And to put this in perspective here, there is a lot of times where men go hunting with rifles and come back with nothing. Imagine if you gave them a spear. Do you think they're coming back, even with a group? Okay?
They also got injured a lot, I feel like.
I know. Lionesses, okay? This is a pack of predator animals that are very strategic, actually. They're extremely intelligent. They actually line up like a certain distance apart. So, because their prey is usually able to run farther than them. So, there's one lioness that starts the chase, and then the other lionesses will pick up the chase as each lion gets tired until they run the animal down. That put in perspective, these animals are only successful about 30% of the time. Now, I want you guys to go and look around you. And how often do you think that the human species was successful at hunting? Like, how often do you think?
I've actually never thought about it like that.
Yeah, like go hand your hunter that you have on your side a spear. Tell him to go bring you home dinner. Let's see what he gets.
Your hunter? Is that your man?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm assuming. I mean, whatever. Yeah, let's see how good that works. When everything goes to crap, humans are not this amazing predator. So you also have to realize that although meat in moderation is okay for humans, especially your farmed raised healthy meat, should not be I do not think that's a healthy majority of your diet, because that is not, when people think about going back to what we originally ate in order to improve our health, it is not meat. We were not snacking on meat all the time. And honestly, even if you think about it from a perspective of if when we did catch food, it was a feast and famine situation where you ate a lot of meat and then you didn't, because meat goes bad, especially in summer.
Yeah. Well, in summer, there's a lot of, vegetables and produce and stuff to eat. So I'm sure people ate way more berries and all of that stuff in the summer and stuff, and focused on eating meat more in the winter.
I mean, it makes no sense for them. If they have all of these fruits and vegetables and stuff that they were growing, and they had the foraging ability in the summer, it would make no sense to go out and hunt and take a risk of getting injured by a large animal.
No.
So that's just not a good idea.
So let's respond to some comments real quick that I got on the video that I did about how we save money on groceries. Like, one of the main things is, like, the reason that we were able to save so much on groceries is because we don't eat meat.
Which is interesting, because if you told somebody to be vegan, they would tell you that they can't afford to be vegan and that it's a privilege.
Yes. Yeah, and then a lot of people will say that they can't eat healthy because fruits and vegetables are so expensive, but then at the same time say that we only save money because we don't eat meat. Basically, any diet can be expensive, whether you eat meat or don't eat meat. It's really not the meat or the vegetables that are expensive or not expensive. It's the processed foods, the sodas, the juices, like all the extra stuff, convenience foods.
Convenience costs money. And that processed food is expensive because it's convenient and because they can charge more for it.
Yeah. And then a lot of people also said that you could reduce your meat consumption or stop eating meat. It is a choice. And then there were a lot of people that were like, well, we don't want to do that. We would never do that. That would be disastrous to us. It would be like living in a depression if we were to do that. So,
well, I mean, if you can afford it, then that's you. But like, we don't buy meat because even if we were going to buy meat, it would be like grass-fed, farm-raised, and which is unaffordable.
Yeah.
That's really unaffordable. Like, if you're just going to eat regular meat, my whole family eats meat. They're poor guys. Like, you can eat cheap meat. They make beef that is really, really cheap. And if it's not, grass-fed organic beef. So that's really not the issue. The secret to us not spending a lot of money on food is that we cook all of our food and we don't eat processed garbage.
So I feel like we still have I could keep talking about this. I feel like this is a topic that we spend a lot of time thinking about, and a lot of time like just making sure that we're living intentionally in this area, because you have to eat. You eat all the time, and there is a lot to this food thing, that the world that we're currently living in, there's a lot of factors that come into play with food. So I think we'll end the conversation here, but I also think it's not really the end of the conversation. I think that we could have more conversations about it.
I think that everybody needs to realize that not everything has to be black and white. Actually, most things are not black and white. It's almost never black and white, actually. And everybody needs to be a little bit more open-minded to different ideas and different cultures, and the way that everything's a different experience. Like in the United States, we have a lot of large-scale agriculture that's a huge problem. In other countries, they don't necessarily have large-scale agriculture, because large-scale agriculture is expensive. And that is not something that they generally do. So, in your country, if you're not from the United States, you might not experience this. But as far as in the U.S. goes, like, our agriculture system is garbage.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even matter. It honestly doesn't even matter if it's meat or if it's plants, because all of our plants, they cover in pesticides.
Definitely.
To the point where they're literally making us sick, and then it rains, and then all of those pesticides run in the ground, and they run into our rivers, and they kill all kinds of animals in our rivers. And we all know that this is a problem. They're constantly spraying all kinds of chemicals everywhere, which is why that we have the issues in the ocean around the Gulf and stuff that we have now, with like bacteria. Red tide. And that's from chemicals running into our oceans.
Yeah, there's so much to this whole conversation, but
the goal is to live ethically and sustainably as possible. And
whether that is eating meat or not eating meat, that's not the only issue.
It's not. It's honestly, it's a bigger issue than the person standing next to you. You can go tell Bob over there to eat veggie burgers all day. But the fact is that there's still going to be a lot of large-scale farming. They're still dumping all kinds of chemicals and garbage into our oceans and killing loads of animals every single day.
Our personal best solution to this is to try and grow as much food as we can on our little piece of property. Try and not financially support these practices, these large-scale agricultural practices, be that chemicals on food, like plants or animals, I don't know. The whole system is we're trying to get out of the system as much as possible.
We do not have a strong stance on people's diet choices, but we do have a very strong stance on our dislike for large-scale agriculture and its effect on our environment.
Yeah.
And our health.
I think we're just going to keep talking.
I think we are too. I think we should make it too.
Okay, so leave any comments you have below. Be nice and respectful of everybody else's opinion.
Taking a drink.
You can get a drink? Are you not drinking?
No, I'm not, because I don't like to drink on camera.
Why?
I don't know.
I'm over here sipping on my tea the whole time.
Well, that was not what I did.
Gurgle. I'm going to put all of this in here just so you know.
No, you're not.
Okay. Bye, guys.